It's official, Deshaun Watson in Berea, wearing number 4. He met with the media. We will hear plenty from Deshaun Watson, Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski, and the Haslams. Sports4CLE starts right now. Good Friday afternoon to you. We have plenty of Browns news to talk about a little later in the show. We will hear from Randy Gurzi from Dawg Daily, NFL Spin Zone. We begin by talking Browns. Deshaun Watson in town, meeting with the media for the first time as the Browns quarterback. Talked about the huge guaranteed contract and choosing the Browns after it initially was reported that the Browns were out. Here's Deshaun Watson.
Actually, it had nothing to do with the contract. I didn't know about the contract until I told my agent that I wanted to come and be a Cleveland Brown. That was secondary. That was after the fact that we spoke on the phone with AB and Kevin and the Haslam family. So that had nothing to do with me choosing the Cleveland Browns.
Why did you originally turn them down?
It wasn't necessarily a turn down. I think the media was kind of rushing me to make a decision, and I wasn't comfortable with making that right decision. And so the news get out and things like that. But for me, I knew that Cleveland was the best situation for a football standpoint, and just for a community and family atmosphere. And these guys mentioned it before. Once I got to meet these guys that sit up here, Coach Kevin and AB and the Haslam family, it was just that connection that we just had that bond. And I knew that this was the perfect situation for me to have a fresh start, go win some Super Bowls, and move forward and build this community as what we want to build it as.
So the AB that Deshaun Watson referencing is the Browns general manager, Andrew Berry. And Berry took us through the process and the rationale of finding it and coming to the decision that giving up some draft picks, 3 firsts, for Deshaun Watson was the right thing to do. Here's the rationale behind making that trade.
It was through this really 5-month odyssey and the information that we were able to amass, the reference work, and obviously working through due process and the legal process that got us comfortable pursuing a trade for Deshaun. Understanding and talking to people who knew Deshaun intimately, interacted with him frequently at different phases of his life, whether that's when he was in Gainesville, at Clemson, and then really, multiple people up and down, the Texans organization across multiple leadership regimes. We used independent, and investigative resources within the Harris County and Houston law enforcement community in order to get an unbiased and well-rounded and comprehensive perspective on the allegations. We didn't want it just to be one-sided. We used third-party legal counsel that allowed to really analyze all the information that we were able to collect and amass. And I should note, because I know a lot has been said about this, we were advised by our attorneys, we were advised against reaching out directly to the 22 women out of concern that it would be considered interfering with a criminal investigation.
Let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Daily. And Casey, so you hear all of that, the process that the Browns went through, from what they're saying, was pretty exhaustive.
Yeah, and I'm actually glad they did that. I'm glad that we got to look into the process that allowed them to vet and make this decision to bring Watson in. This press conference was actually more of what I was hoping for and less than what I expected. I expected a lot more GM speak than we actually got. And to look behind the curtain and see that they did get a third-party legal counsel, independent investigators, that's what we kind of were expecting to know. We wanted to find out what made you comfortable bringing Deshaun Watson into the organization.
Yeah, and again, fans, I get it if you're not completely comfortable with it. It's everybody's individual process to kind of work through it. The other thing that was very interesting, Andrew Berry was asked about that first year of the contract that the national media made a huge deal about because it is basically the minimum. And if you look back at Andrew Berry, he explains the rationale and will give you even a little bit more perspective. But here's Andrew Berry talking about why the Browns went so low on the first year of Deshaun Watson's contract.
I typically don't talk about contracts in this setting. I actually will make a departure from that because I do think a little bit of context is important. Say a couple things. Number one, we certainly understand the optics of it. I think for us, after we got comfortable with Deshaun, the contract was really a football decision. The things that were important to us from a club perspective were to have another year, have Deshaun under contract for another year, and to have it structured in a manner that would allow us, maximum flexibility to execute the rest of our offseason plan. And that's specifically true as we really kind of facilitate the next steps with Baker and Baker's contracts, on our cap. And I think probably the other thing to mention is that structure, Jake, is very similar to a lot of the large contracts that we already have. A lot of the larger player contracts that we already have on the books.
And here is a look at that. So the 1.035 base salary minimum, it's no surprise. 1 year minimum for Hooper, Garrett, John Johnson, Chubb, Cooper, Teller, Hill, Keenum, Jackson, Walker. So the conspiracy theory that they were doing this with the intent of minimizing any potential suspension, Casey, it just doesn't hold any water. So again, really good work by Jack Duffin there, getting that compilated for social media.
Yeah, Jack does excellent work. I suggest everyone follows him, especially during free agency. It's not even just the Browns. Look league-wide, all of the larger contracts are small, way smaller hits in the first year than they are later. They're all back-end loaded. So it's becoming like common practice. Now, I know it's going to be highlighted more because of Watson and, the potential looming suspension, that it was some underhanded thing to do. I think the bigger thing is the guaranteed money, not the first year being a small minimum hit.
Yeah, without question. And the other thing is you also have to remember they still have $18.9 million of Baker Mayfield's contract, and that's another reason. That's what Andrew Berry was alluding to on the backside of that comment. All right, the decision to trade for Deshaun Watson, it wasn't an easy one for the Haslams. Here are Jimmy and Dee Haslam explaining what they went through.
We put more time, more thought, more effort, talked to more people, did more research on this decision by far than any other decision we've made with the Cleveland Browns. It's not something we took lightly. It's something we took very seriously, and we feel comfortable with the process we've been through. And Dee, I'll let you make any comments you might want to make.
Yeah, I just want to say, this has been a really hard and difficult journey for us and for our family. And we spent a lot of time and a lot of evenings spending time with our daughters and working through this as a family. And I have to tell you, it was really hard. And we had to really work hard to get comfortable with the decision. We knew going into this could be really hard on individuals. It could trigger emotions from individuals that had been through sexual abuse. And, I just have to tell you, our compassion for those individuals is really deep. We know how hard this has been on them.
And the Haslams both said they know male and female who are sexual abuse victims personally. So, again, it's good that they addressed that. Casey, I credit them for addressing that up front.
Yeah, it was unfortunate they couldn't be at the actual facility today when, for the live press conference, but to do it, at least Zoom, at least they're getting their words out there and getting in front of it as much as they can. And I will say this, Jimmy needs to let Dee speak more often. She comes off way better than Jimmy does in these press conferences. Yeah,
and nothing against Jimmy. Dee came off very well. I agree wholeheartedly. All right, Deshaun Watson, he realizes that he needs to rebuild his reputation without question. And, he understands that working with women's groups is something he's going to have to do, and he's going to have to work at it.
working with women groups. I think it has to be something that I have to earn that trust, to be honest. I have to earn that trust back into the community so I can step out. I don't want to just jump out and make it seem like I'm not doing it. I'm just doing it just to try to clear my name. I've always been a community leader with Habitat for Humanity, with Kids for Cancer, because my mom had tongue cancer, with education, giving back to schools, and then also with just all types of charity work around the community of building communities, building housing and things. So, I'm going to work with this organization and my team to the perfect opportunity for us to come out and just help, because I've always been that type of person. That's how I was raised, and that's why I continue to say I'm a servant leader, because I wrote a book on it. That's how I was before any of these allegations. But at the same time, I know, and I'm not naive to the point that I have to earn that trust back from the community and people outside that's looking, at these allegations and haven't spoke to me before. So that's my goal, is to be able to earn that trust and keep pushing forward.
And again, Casey, it's going to be a process for him, but first thing is he has to want to do that.
Yeah, he's aware he has a tough road in front of him, and there's going to be people that never, ever, go to his side and believe him. So it's, what he needs to do is what he's done in the past, as far as, his charitable work. And even during the pandemic, when the concession workers were shut down, he paid their salaries. These are, goodwill gestures, and his actions are going to speak way louder than his words ever could. So he knows that going forward, he needs to be talking to women's groups and being out in the public and being open about these kind of things to earn the trust of the people that are on the fence, because there's some people he can't win, and he can't worry about that. He just needs to do the best thing he can day in and day out.
The other thing is there is a whole group of teammates that are waiting to meet him and get to know him with the Browns now. Deshaun Watson talked about those teammates and meeting some of them.
A lot of the teammates reached out to me when the trade was happening, or when the information, the news came out. But I've known a lot of people in that locker room also, just from the course of high school, college, and just playing against, or some guys that were in Houston with me, and vice versa. So a lot of the guys have definitely reached out. We've definitely talked, and a lot of guys know me as a person. And I'm going to continue to the guys that haven't met me before. Once they get in April, I think it's the 18th, I'm going to continue to show who I am, and we can sit down and speak about it. And
last night, First Energy Stadium, the first and second round picks of the Browns from a year ago. Greg Newsome, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and Deshaun Watson at First Energy Stadium, the new home for Watson. And again, Casey, it's nice to see that some of the younger guys are already kind of, welcoming him into the team and the organization.
Yeah, that's essential. No matter what you feel of him, he's a quarterback. That means he has to be the leader of a team. So to have the young players kind of already flocking to him and looking at him, and that kind of can only help going forward. So, Deshaun Watson, like I said, has a tough road ahead, but that's the best thing he can do is bunker down with those guys in the locker room, earn their respect, and I think that's how you start.
Yeah, without question. And again, locker room is an interesting place. If you can win the locker room over, you've got part of the battle won. Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, was it the owner or football operations driving the bus trying to get this trade done? We'll hear from Jimmy Haslam when Sports4CLE returns. Stay with us.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. So some of the national media was saying that it was Jimmy Haslam, Browns owner, who was moving the bus towards getting this trade done. Jimmy Haslam was asked by the media today who in fact initiated the Deshaun Watson trade, ownership or football operations?
Definitely conceived by football operations. I can tell you it was widely vetted throughout our organization, including ownership, but it was conceived in football operations. We expect very high performance levels on and off the field from our players, and Deshaun knows and understands that. One of the things that has impressed us about Deshaun is his continual drive to get better in all parts of his life, and we think that will continue, if not grow, as he joins our organization.
So Casey, there you have it. It was the football operations guys looking at it according to Jimmy Haslam. You believe him?
Yeah, actually, I do. I mean, look at it from an on-field perspective. Deshaun Watson is a clear upgrade from Baker Mayfield. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth, you know. And with Baker, everything had to be perfect around him. And with Deshaun, it allows for a little more fluctuation. He can do more off-schedule stuff. He can just do more, period. So if you, from an on-field perspective, this was the move to make to get the most talented quarterback you could possibly get. And then if you look at the NFL landscape, there was no more talented quarterback available than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and again, you and I have talked, and we've talked at length on this show, the Browns needed to upgrade the passing game. You can get elite wide receivers and put them around an okay quarterback, or you can get an elite quarterback who will make wide receivers better. That's kind of what the Browns opted to do. Here is Deshaun Watson on what the Browns are getting with him as the quarterback.
You're getting a strong leader who loves the work, who loves to make sure he uplifts everyone around him, who's going to compete super, super hard, who's going to fight to the end of time of each and every game, and a guy that is, like I said, is going to push everyone to their full potential so we can win a lot of Super Bowls.
And, you know, he didn't play last year. Fans tend to forget just how good this guy was. A couple of years ago, they were talking about him and Patrick Mahomes being pretty equal.
Yeah, if you go back and watch his games, I mean, he's one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league, and he just makes things look easy, even when they're not. You know, that's the mark of a great quarterback. Is, you know, there's not always going to be everything going on schedule, and to stay calm in the chaos. And that's exactly what Watson does. There's always the possibility, you know, with a year off, there's going to be some rust. And if they say he does have a suspension to start the year and that extends the time off, how much rust is there, and how long is it going to take him to work through it?
Yeah, those are all legitimate questions. The flip side of that is, though, the miles on the body are a little bit less. So there's a plus and a minus to the time away. Well, you can imagine, you know, Kevin Stefanski probably has a whiteboard in his office, and I'm guessing he is going crazy drawing up some things that he can do with Deshaun Watson. Here is Kevin Stefanski about the offense and what it might look like with Deshaun Watson.
We're going to work through it. We're going to spend a lot of time with Deshaun and the coaches and sit down and make sure we're doing what he's comfortable with. Obviously, we have some good players that we're excited about on our offense, and that's our challenge right now that we have to work through is figure out ways that we want to pivot, ways we want to adapt to make sure that we're utilizing Deshaun to his best of his abilities. So if you watch a bunch of what Deshaun's done in his past, there's similarities to what Houston was doing to what we're doing. There's some differences, and that's our job that we're working hard on and understanding where we want to move to. So yeah, I do think you'll see differences.
And I would expect that as well. You play to players' strengths, and that's Deshaun Watson, different skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, his ability to be off schedule and make things happen allows for a lot more improvisation and how to, like, basically always be attacking, have to make them guard every blade of grass. A quarterback like Watson does that. You know, you can't just cut off half the side of the field because he rolls out. You know, it just opens up the playbook to a variety of options that weren't available with the last quarterback. And that's not a knock on Baker Mayfield. There aren't very many Deshaun Watsons running around out there. He's a rare breed. And I think, you know, like you said, that whiteboard's got to be crazy right now with all the possibilities that can happen with Deshaun Watson under center.
True dual threat guy. He can beat you with your legs, and Kevin Stefanski, you can be sure, will try to figure out a way to use that to the Browns' benefit. All right, ESPN, most impactful moves and off-season goals. So for the Browns, next step in settling in with Watson is a way to find the right plays in the system that will maximize his tremendous abilities. And you talk about that, so that's kind of working into it. Now the question is, how many games will he play? And that alludes to the suspension. But the Browns and Kevin Stefanski have to figure out, how do you put maximum pressure on a defense with Deshaun Watson as your quarterback?
Well, first off, with Deshaun Watson as your quarterback, you can say goodbye to those 8-man boxes that Chubb was seeing last year. Those are gone. Those are out the window. So that opens everything up there. You're going to be playing in front of the sticks. And, when that's open, your whole playbook is open. I mean, it's when you get stuck in these third and unmanageable situations where it's just doomed from the start. But even with Watson, if you get in those 3rd and 12s, 3rd and 14s, it's still not an easy thing for the defense just to get off the field. So the pressure's always on them, And Watson's a guy that things might not work in the first quarter. He stays with it. He's never going to be out of a game just based on his skill set. So, for the Browns, you have a dangerous quarterback, and they're going to maximize him. They're going to try to look to get him in advantageous situations, and they're going to try to get him another piece or two to kind of lift the top off this defense that they're going to be facing and really go in attack mode. That's what we're going to see from the teams of the last 2 years. Is they're not playing manageable football. They're going to be attacking now, and it should be exciting for all Brown fans.
So Andrew Berry talked about kind of what he views the Browns getting in Deshaun Watson.
For us, once we got comfortable with Deshaun as a person, Deshaun the person, it became pretty straightforward from a football perspective. We think he's one of the best players at the position in the sport. He's obviously in his prime, and we think it's the most important position in the sport. So once we were able to get comfortable with him as a person, the football part in terms of evaluation was pretty easy.
And again, you don't hear Andrew Berry often saying, he's one of the best at his position. He doesn't throw those around lightly.
No, he does not. He doesn't really let too much out of his mouth, unintentionally. But with Deshaun Watson, it's the truth. It is what it is. And keep in mind, he's younger than Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they moved on to some vet they're going to have less time with. He's going to have equal amount of time left in his career. So the Browns made a football-wise smart investment going out and securing one of the generational quarterbacks of his era. So hats off to Barry and everyone else that was involved in this decision, because it wasn't easy to come to, but the on-the-field aspect of it is just too much to ignore.
So the other thing that Andrew Berry was asked about is when the Browns started looking at Deshaun Watson, and he said it was kind of part of the evaluation process they go through at each and every position every season. Here's Berry on that topic.
Usually once the trade deadline passes, you're building your free agency board, you're getting to late fall in terms of your draft process. So that is the time that you'll begin a lot of work on a lot of players. Obviously, given the complexity of Deshaun's situation at the time, there was going to be additional work needed to make sure to vet it as thoroughly as possible. So at that time, we had made no specific decisions, really probably anywhere on the roster, but we were trying to make sure that we obviously had enough time to do as much work as we could.
And again, Casey, what he's saying is they didn't decide at the trade deadline they were moving on from Baker Mayfield, but they decided to start looking at the landscape of all positions.
Yeah, that one I don't know if I buy as much. I think that when the trade deadline came and he was still available, to do the additional work on him means you are not set at your quarterback. You don't go look into a quarterback with all this hanging over him at the time if you feel that you're set. So they knew they weren't set. So they did their due diligence, as any good front office should do. So I don't see it as like an indictment on Mayfield, but they were definitely looking to, upgrade at the position and looking at all available people that could do so. And looking at Watson, it shows that if they were going to investigate someone with that hanging over him, that they were going to move on if they could.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Casey Kinnamon and I got to take a quick time out, other side of the break. We'll hear what a national guy thinks about the trade. Then a couple of voicemails asking about pieces to add around Watson. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to Sports4CLE. Marcellus Wiley has been a little critical of the Browns' quarterback play in the past. Here is what Wiley had to say about the Browns' acquisition of Deshaun Watson. This is from FS1's First Things First.
Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns is obviously the best move so far this offseason. Let me tell you why. In simple, he went to the best roster in terms of construction that needed him, and he got the most for his services. And let's be real, he ain't even serviced anybody last year. And we don't know when he gonna service somebody going forward. Ooh, you talking about winning in life. Shout out to David Mulugeta for making this happen. Wait a minute. Did I just hear that he got the highest guaranteed contract in NFL history on a roster that was only missing one player, the quarterback? He just so happens to be a quarterback. And he goes to the situation with maybe the most loyal fan base as long as you're out there producing.
Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. All those things are correct.
Yeah, it's hard to poke holes in any of the things he just said. But that also brings a light to it. You do have to produce, you know. You are getting paid a handsome salary to, as Watson put it, not just one. He said Super Bowls. He said plural. So he's putting the weight of that expectation on himself. And that's the standard he's going to be held to by the fans. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, and you know what, though? Points to the Browns. If you don't have a franchise quarterback, one of those top guys that you win because of, you're always looking for that if you truly are trying to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and there's a lot made of the guaranteed money that he's owed. But just fast forward 3 years, that's going to look like a steal.
Yeah.
That's just the way these contracts go. They escalate.
Yeah, and the salary cap's going nowhere but up. There's new broadcast money coming in. There's going to be sports wagering revenue that's going to even increase it more. So the salary cap is going up. All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We have several of them. And again, I had some news to get out of the way, but this one about an idea for a guy to add to that offense.
Just a quick question. So Julio Jones is still out there on the free agent market. We all know that OBJ is still out there as well, and apparently he might be returning to Cleveland. But just curious to hear from you guys what you guys think, if it's a possibility of us going out and getting Julio Jones to complement Amari Cooper and now Deshaun Watson as well. Thank you guys, and go Browns.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. What do you think about it, Casey? Julio Jones makes sense to you?
I mean, there was a time and a place to go get a Julio Jones. I just don't think that's in 2022. I think you'd be going out and getting more of a name than someone who's going to produce like Julio Jones used to produce.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of interesting. So Deshaun Watson was drafted by a pick that the Browns owned. Julio Jones was drafted by a pick so I'll connect the dots there. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about another idea that we're going to float by a piece to add.
And I seen Antonio Brown had put out there that he's interested in the Browns. And I know he has a lot of troubles and things going on, but at the same time, if we can get him for the veterans minimum and let him know that if you clown, you gotta go. But he's definitely still a good football player. Go Browns.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. So throw you that one. Antonio Brown?
Well, I think from a player perspective, he has more left to give than someone like Julio Jones. But at the same time, with all the baggage the Browns have just taken on, I would prefer to leave Antonio Brown out of that equation. And I wouldn't bring that into the locker room just now. I'd wait till you get your head back above water before you start making risky moves like that.
All right, before we head to break, who are some guys that you think they might look at wide receiver? Because clearly they're going to add one, draft a couple. They're going to do multiple guys that need to be added.
Yeah, I think you'd probably, if you're looking at young guys, maybe Laviska Shenault out there from Jacksonville. I think that's a guy that you might be interested in. He's still young, 23 years old, a lot of upside with him. But if they were going to go someone, I'd rather go a trade route and try to throw a late round draft pick to snag someone like Brandon Cooks off the Texans, or another speed threat, maybe a Tyler Lockett, if you could work that out somehow. I think that's what this team really needs at this point.
Yeah, and again, you can be sure Andrew Berry is going to be working all the angles to try to upgrade the wide receiving core. Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout. Other side of the break, we head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason about some other positions that the Browns need to upgrade. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. We're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Browns have upgraded the offense with Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson. This voicemailer thinking about the other side of the football.
Hey, I was just calling in to ask. Nobody's really talking about, our offense looks great, but they're going to have to score 60 points a game if we don't do something in free agency to shore up our defensive tackle and defensive end positions. Do you think anybody is still available that they'll bring in? Thanks. Bye.
All right, as always, we appreciate the voicemails. And Casey, 60 might be a little high. I think they can get in the 30s and 40s. But to the voicemailer's point, who are some names to listen out for that you think makes sense, defensive end, defensive tackle?
For the defensive tackles, I think the best route they could go right now is try to get a one-year rental on a proven veteran who can step right in and play grown man football. Someone like Akeem Hicks, even look at someone like Eddie Goldman, see what it would take to bring him into the fold. Or Calais Campbell. These guys are out there, and they're not going to sign soon. It's going to be something that happens later, so don't panic when they don't come. But I think that would be the best route to go to kind of solve the defensive tackle room. Defensive end, I think they're mainly going to attack that. They're obviously going to throw what they can at Clowney and hope that he signs. He'll also be a late addition if he comes, but expect them to attack that in the draft. I expect the number 44 pick to end up being an edge defender.
Yeah, and again, the good news is two of the deep positions in this draft happen to be wide receiver and edge rusher, the two areas that the Browns need to upgrade. This one's fascinating. Let's take a look at this from Mike Clay, ESPN. He is updating the 2022 positional units. Anything in blue, not good. So when you look at the Browns, wide receivers need to be upgraded. The interior defensive line, as low as it gets. Now, running back as high as it gets, cornerback pretty good, line pretty good as well. Overall, the 8th ranked team in the NFL, but I guess that's fair. Interior defensive linemen and wide receivers, the two areas that still need to be attacked, I would agree.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like we were speaking of interior defensive linemen, right now they got 3 guys on the roster, and none of them are proven commodities. You have a former first-round pick in Taven Bryan, who they went and got last week, but he's not been nothing more than a role player yet to this point in his career, and you can't expect him to just become a starter, a bona fide guy who you're going to see in there day in, day out. And then with the other 2 young guys, man, between Tommy and between Jordan, like you got the makings of someone who could contribute, but they haven't done it yet. So they have no one in there they can officially count on. So they're going to attack that. You're going to see a couple draft assets to shore up the interior defensive line. And like I said, at least one-year rental of a proven commodity of someone who can come in right now and keep those linebackers clean. If you can get a guy up there who can occupy blockers and keep JOK clean, you're going to see a lot more plays made behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and again, keep in mind JOK will get even a little bit better because now that learning curve has been smoothed out a little bit. What are your thoughts on Clowney? Gut feeling Do you think they're able to get it done with him, or does somebody throw a bigger pile of money in front of him?
Well, I've been up and down on this. At first, I thought, when the season ended, there was a good chance he would be coming back. And then the way it kind of played out right, about a month ago, honestly, it kind of felt like he was going to be out of our grasp, and there might be a bidding war. And if that were to happen, the Browns are going to be out of it. But is someone really going to offer him a 4-year contract, given his injury history and his age? I doubt it, So then the Browns go and get Watson, which I think gives us, again, the inside track to get Clowney back. As long as no one throws any dumb money at him, I think it could really come down to the Browns. The floated offer of 2 years for 24 might be enough to get it done. It can't be lost on people that Clowney doesn't do OTAs, so you're not going to see him sign with anyone until those are over. So, fingers crossed. I do feel better about it now than I did a month ago.
And you know what? With a guy that's been that beat up, you really don't want him to do OTAs. As long as you come in shape and can answer the bell for 15, 16 of those 17 games. All right, predicting each team's breakout player in 2022. This is from the Bleacher Report. For the Browns, they go defensive backfield, Grant Delpit, and I could definitely see that. Remember, coming off an Achilles, you can play, but the second year off a major injury is even better. And you see, they're not rushing to re-sign Ronnie Harrison, so he's going to get more time. He took over 50% of the defensive snaps, and again, with an Achilles injury, you're back after a year. But to be back to feeling like you normally do, it usually takes longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And something to think about with Grant is over the course of the season, he played more in the deep third than he did anywhere else. Just based on they didn't have a true free safety on this team, and his athleticism allowed him to, and discipline allowed him to be able to do that. But that's not his greatest skill set. He is that guy that the offense has to account for. So if they can get him in a position where they get a true free safety, so they can move him around. He can play some of that, but he can also come down and be that dime backer, be the blitzer coming off the box. He is a very dynamic defensive back, and he can do all things. He can guard in the nickel. So to be able to move him around, I think, is the key with Delpit.
Yeah.
And if they can do that, he will have a breakout season.
Yeah, and you're right. He, when he came on blitzes, you could see it kind of developing as the year went on. It's like, oh, he can do that, and he can do it well.
Yeah, he's a heat-seeking missile when he's out there. Now that causes him to miss tackles every now and again, but you're never going to it's never going to be for a lack of effort. He comes and he comes hard, So it's a budding young star that the Browns have back there, and I hope they can use him in multiple ways this year and really wreak havoc on offenses.
All right, before we let you go, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We got a couple on this as people asking about special teams.
Yes, hello. I had a question regarding the punter situation. We don't seem to be addressing that much as far as questions and answers go. And I was wondering about Matt Araiza from San Diego State. Taking a draft pick and drafting a punter is kind of unusual, but apparently this kid has got amazing amount of talent. I heard he kicked a 75-yard punt in the air at the combine. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on actually drafting a punter in the draft this year, and what you think about him and the possibilities of going that direction for the upcoming draft. Thank you very much.
All right, as always, appreciate all of the calls. In the 7th round, 6th, 7th round, if you feel really good about a punter, the punting was not good last year. So, and again, I love Browns fans because we get multiple calls about punters and kickers, and there's probably not another fan base that's thinking about that at this time of year. But your thoughts about the punting situation and potentially drafting one?
I mean, Ray's is a good candidate to talk about this with. If you believe he's that head and shoulders above everyone else that you could grab off the scrap heap and bring in for competition in the summer, if he's available when you're picking at 220 and you really are convicted that he is the best available, I wouldn't be mad taking a flyer. But you're not going to waste any high, valuable assets to go and get a punter, unless you're the Raiders or something. But the way it breaks down is it'll work itself out. You're going to bring enough legs into camp that you're going to find the best available guy that you can get. Flipping the field is important, and that's something the Browns did not do near enough these last 2 seasons. So they need to get someone that can do it, but do you need to waste a draft pick to do it? Typically, you don't have to. But if they believe like Ariz is a generational punter, I would have no problem using the last pick to pick him up.
Yeah, you absolutely want to make sure that you get a guy that's here a long term if you can do it. As always, great stuff, Casey Kinnamon. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
All right, Casey Kinnamon, make sure you read them, pages of Dog Pound Daily. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns football. We'll hear some more from Andrew Berry as well as Deshaun Watson. Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily, the NFL Spin Zone, joins us straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Deshaun Watson met with the Cleveland media for the first time today. Watson talked about those 22 allegations and rebuilding his reputation.
I understand the whole circumstances is very difficult, especially for the women's side of the fans in this community. I'm not naive to that. I know these allegations is very, very serious. But like I've mentioned before, I've never assaulted any woman. I never disrespected any woman. I was raised by a single-parent mom who has two aunties who's her sister, and that's who raised me. I was raised to be genuine and respect everyone and everything around me. So I've always defended that, and I will continue to stand on that. And I just want the opportunity to be able to show who I really am in the community and be hands-on and help people and serve other people.
Let's welcome in Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily as well as the NFL Spin Zone. So Randy, again, Deshaun said the right things. Time will tell. You still have to let the legal process really play out.
Yeah, he took a positive first step today, appearing in front of the media and kind of answering some questions. I know he said there were some things he can't answer yet, but at least, he was, willing to go out there and try to face the music, so to speak.
Yeah, and he appeared to be genuine and answered it as well as he could. All right, this one's interesting. So the Browns have really been on the forefront in the NFL for being inclusive as an organization. Dee Haslam is among several NFL owners who are female. Kelly Bronson is a coach, one of the few NFL coaches who is a female. Andrew Berry was asked, did the Browns consult females in the organization before they made this trade? Here's Andrew Berry.
There absolutely were. And, we've talked a lot about building a diverse group within the organization and bringing all the perspectives to the table. And that's certainly something that we did with this decision as well.
And Randy, again, the media asked the right questions, and Andrew Berry, was there to deal with them.
Yeah, and I mean, they had to be well prepared for this. They knew the questions were coming. They didn't go into this lightly, thinking that people weren't going to ask about any of this. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. They've been inclusive throughout their existence, but they do have to tread lightly here because you can lose a lot of good grace quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is not something to take lightly. So, another one. Andrew Berry asked, all right, what is your message to Browns fans that are really having a whole bunch of trouble processing this move?
We'll never fully be able to walk in the shoes of individuals who have been affected by sexual assault. And that is something that, we thought about a lot as we went through this process, understanding, what the reaction would be. And that's something that weighed heavily on me. And we empathize with that emotion. We empathize with that sentiment. And at the same time, we also do feel good about the work that we did as we vetted this transaction. We do have confidence and faith in Deshaun as a person. And that did weigh heavily in the decision. But between the information that we were able to gather, working through due process, working through the legal process, we do think that this is a decision that, as it's evaluated over the long run, will be something that is positive for our organization. And we totally respect and totally empathize with those sentiments right now, totally understand that there are people who are not comfortable with the transaction right now.
And again, Randy, I think Andrew Berry and the Browns handled that about as well as you could possibly. They realize it's going to be a process with their fans. All right, let's get on to something a little more football related. You wrote something about the backup quarterback. Take us through Jacoby Brissett, what you see with him. And again, you wrote this article for Dog Pound Daily. So what makes sense with Brissett?
I think what makes sense with Brissett is that he has a similar skill set to Deshaun Watson. Obviously, Watson's on a much higher level, but you still have that mobility, the ability to sling it downfield, get out on the rollouts, which Stefanski really loves to be able to do. So he's also got a lot of starting experience. So I think that they went out, they got a guy that, if Deshaun Watson is suspended for 6-8 games, whatever it ends up being, you have somebody that can continue to run the offense and threaten defenses. I know they had Case Keenum last year, but we saw that Keenum wasn't really pushing the ball downfield a whole lot, and he's not exactly mobile. So I feel like it was just a move where you get an experienced guy that still can do the things that you want your star quarterback to do.
So in other words, assuming worst case scenario, Deshaun Watson, well, not worst case, but assuming a scenario where Deshaun Watson missed 4 or 6 games, you still have basically the same offense. Your backup's just not quite as dynamic as your starter, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that was a smart move by Andrew Berry in the front office to get somebody in there that, as you said, you just keep doing what you're doing.
All right, so the other question becomes, how do you build around it? So let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, and this one about a key position on the offense for the Browns.
I guess my question is, what does our wide receiver room look like? I know we signed Cooper, but one man does not make a wide receiving core. What are your thoughts on that?
All right, and we always appreciate the voicemails. So you have Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, probably Anthony Schwartz. Who do you think that they're looking at to potentially add? Who do you think makes sense to add with Watson in this offense?
I think the first name that jumps out to me is Will Fuller. Him and Watson have experience together in Houston. There's reports that there's mutual interest between the two. The only problem really with Fuller is injury history. I believe he's only played 11 games is the max he's played in one season. But another good thing, I mean, the caller's absolutely right. One receiver doesn't make an entire room. And I think they have some good pieces. I think Donovan Peoples-Jones could be a solid number 3 guy, but I do think they need a number 2 receiver. And if you don't get somebody like Fuller, this is the perfect year to still find somebody at number 44 in the draft, because it's loaded this year. You know, you're not going to get a Garrett Wilson, but somebody like a Sky Moore or even a John Mechie from Alabama could still come in and do well.
When you look at it, do you have any feeling about Jarvis Landry potentially coming back? What are your thoughts there?
You know, they said that Deshaun Watson was trying to recruit him to Atlanta when he thought he was headed there. So I don't think the door is completely closed on it. I think that the longer he's in free agency, the higher the chances are that something could happen, because if he's not getting the contract he wants, if he's not getting with a team that he believes can contend for a Super Bowl, you know, Cleveland's got a pretty good rapport with him. They know him really well. The fans love him. And he obviously has a connection with Watson, which could help.
The other thing is he moved on from Clutch Sports, so he changed his representation, his agent. Is that, you think, another sign that he potentially might be looking for another deal, for a better deal?
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, the longer it goes on, you know, he seemed to be happy there. I don't think he had a personal issue with Baker Mayfield. But I think there were times where last year where the two of them just weren't able to connect. You could see, I know they made a big thing about Odell Beckham Jr. running open and not getting the ball, but that was also happening with Landry late in the year as well. So he may be a little more willing now with a different quarterback there also.
Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily, NFL Spin Zone, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we hear from Jimmy Haslam about Baker Mayfield. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We continue talking Browns. Well, the relationship with Baker Mayfield, also something that the Haslams addressed. Here's Jimmy Haslam talking about Baker Mayfield.
Contrary to what is out there in the press, we think highly of Baker and did not get down on him. And I know there was a statement that we needed an adult in the room, and Baker felt that came from ownership, but that's not true. And Baker gave it everything he had while he was here. Nobody could question his effort this past year, and nobody could question the 4 years he gave to the city of Cleveland. And we wish him nothing but the best of luck.
And with that, let's welcome Randy Gurzi back in. And Randy, what are your thoughts? I think Baker Mayfield can still be an effective NFL quarterback. I think he's a starter at some point. I don't think he's an elite quarterback, but I think you can win with him, just not because of him.
I think you hit it right on the head there. I think he's a good quarterback. He can be a starter. He's not going to be the guy that puts the team on his back as much as he wants to be that guy. But yeah, I agree with what Mr. Haslam said, that he gave everything he had to the city. He's been the best quarterback that we've had since they came back in 1999. So it's hard to see him go. I don't like the people that are kind of kicking him out the door because he really did give his all. And I don't think that the Browns really were down on him and just trying everything they could to get rid of him. I think they had an opportunity to go get an elite player, and so they took a shot. But I think if you don't have a Deshaun Watson in play, I don't think that they were going out there and jumping after a Jimmy Garoppolo or somebody just to get rid of Baker.
Agree wholeheartedly. You also wrote an article about Baker and a potential landing spot that would be very attractive for him, the Buccaneers. Take us through that and just kind of your thought process when you wrote that article.
Well, right now it's looking like there's not a whole lot of starting opportunities for him out there. Indianapolis made a lot of sense, but after they picked up Matt Ryan, that kind of went out the window. It seems like Seattle is willing to go with Drew Lock and maybe a rookie. Carolina seems like they've kind of got their sights set on a rookie. I'm hearing Kenny Pickett is somebody that they like. So with the starting spots kind of drying up, Tampa Bay was looking at Baker before Tom Brady decided to come back. He may not be starting this year, so it might not be a bad idea for him to go get with a team like that, learn the system, get familiar with Bruce Arians, and then should Brady decide to actually hang it up next year, he could potentially step right into a role and be a starter in 23.
Yeah, and so I would say the Bucs are kind of the main backup. The other thing is the Panthers and the Seahawks, let's see, because they're playing poker right now. They're saying they're not interested because they don't want to drive the price up. They know they're probably competing with each other.
Yeah, neither one of them are set at quarterback. You're not going to really want to go with Drew Lock or Sam Darnold into the season right now, but I think they also might both kind of see how the draft plays out. I know this year's not great at quarterback, but there's a couple of them, Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett, that teams seem to like a little bit. But maybe if things don't fall their way, then they might revisit it with the Browns.
Last thing I'll ask you before I let you go, what do you think is realistic in terms of return for Baker? Do you think they can get a second, third-round pick for him, or because of that almost $19 million contract, is that not likely?
I think the contract definitely hurts because it's fully guaranteed, and teams know that exactly what you said earlier, he's not exactly going to be the guy that puts the team on his back. He's not an elite player. So it's going to be hard for people to swallow that. I think, a third-round pick, it would probably be the top. I don't know if they're going to get a second for him. I'd be shocked if they did, but I think a third-round pick seems reasonable.
Randy Gurzi from Dog Pound Daily, NFL Spin Zone. As always, appreciate the time and the insight. Good stuff, Randy.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, Randy Gurzi. Make sure you read him. NFL Spin Zone as well as Dog Pound Daily. Before we go, each week, in conjunction with the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program, we recognize role model students from all across the state of Ohio. Today we head over to Trinity High School. We meet Ronnie Thigpen. Thigpen, not only an honorable mention All-Ohio basketball player, but above a 3.5 student. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program proud to honor Ronnie Thigpen from Trinity High School, this week's Shining Star. There's a presence about Trinity's Ronnie Thigpen on the basketball court, a confident, calming effect that her coaches love and her teammates respect.
Have to be a leader across the board, just a leader. A leader can be somebody that uplifts their team, helps, when someone's down, picks up your teammate on the court, everything like that.
She's very quiet, but she's just very focused. She was very humble in her interview because the first thought that popped to my mind was the district semis and the district finals. She was tenacious on defense. I know kids want to score in a lot of sports, but her defense helped us win the district semifinals for the first time in, I think, 12 or 14 years. It's just a quiet leader.
Thigpen was named Trinity's captain this year and earned Division III honorable mention All-Ohio honors. She's the kind of player coaches love because she can impact the game in every way possible.
She can score, there's no doubt about it, from anywhere on the court, but I would say very aggressive. Not dirty and nasty whatsoever, just that aggressiveness that helped our team.
Defense wins games, I feel like, and it broke down, so make yourself available at all times. Even if you don't get the ball, cut, set picks, roll, and then try to get the ball as best as you can.
Ronnie is one of those players who just seems to enjoy the game and is always working on getting better.
I didn't like it at first, but then I started playing, and then I got training, and then I just fell in love with it. We'll do shooting drills, we'll do ball handling, and then sometimes we just do shooting all together. Sometimes we play 5-on-5. It just depends on what day it is.
Doesn't matter the day, Ronnie Thigpen gets it done in the classroom. She carries a 3.7 GPA in college-level classes and plans on playing basketball in college and majoring in child and family law.
I want to help, give justice to people when they deserve it and when they're right, and I feel like they're right.
Her love of children is what has her sights on that career. And like all Trinity students, Ronnie has an internship. This semester, she's at St. Rocco's in the kindergarten class.
I've always liked children, so it's cool. It's pretty a cool internship. I don't know, they're just always smiling, they're always laughing, you know, having a good time, enjoying life. And that's what makes me have a good day sometimes when I go, because it's a Monday. I don't really, you know, sometimes don't feel like going, but when I go there, they brighten my day up. They make me smile.
If you know a student who deserves recognition, we want to hear about them, and you can nominate them completely online. Go to ohiolottery.com, find the About section. Click on Partners in Education. There you will see links to nomination forms. Nominate that student as an academic all-star, and they could end up being featured as our next shining star. Well done, Ronnie Thigpen. That will do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We will see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday on Sports for CLE.